Hello, all. It's Monday. Happy Monday. And if you notice, I seem a bit disheveled. There's dust in my hair, and I'm pretty sure there's paint on my forehead somewhere. That's because I was working on the house the whole weekend. This looks a bit better, eh? The shot? Hey, no creepy feet or anything like that. I kind of like it as a temporary thing. Still need more light in the front, but that's not what I'm talking about. I asked on Friday whether I should talk about the Kavanaugh thing, and the results were kind of mixed. And I've been watching the coverage, and um, there's been a point that I immediately thought of, and I haven't seen it anywhere in the media. So I think I'll talk about that instead. And no, it has nothing to do with whether or not I think he did it or whether or not I think she's, oh, like, there, no, that's still too harsh. Whether or not, I think she's whatever. It's about something we can actually prove. And that's kind of important in this situation. One of the things I've heard over and over and over again in the media is that Kavanaugh's behavior at the second hearing, where Christine Blasey Ford and Brett Kavanaugh appeared, was that his conduct, his demeanor, was disqualifying because he didn't have the temperament to be a judge. What they're missing is that, and I watched as much of it as I possibly could. In his defense, he actually employed a series of rape myths, and that to me is disqualifying for a judge, and that has nothing to do with his conservative views or anything like that. This is something that's very important because even up in Canada, we still have issues with this, that some judges think that if a woman was really being assaulted, she'd fight more, or all these strange misperceptions. Now, we don't, as a rule, present expert testimony in criminal trials or anything like that. Judges are presumed to know this stuff, and in most of the cases they do. But it was kind of shocking to me to see someone, attempting to be elevated to the highest court in the land, basically keep going back to his academic record and the fact that he played sports ball as a defense against the accusation of clumsy, very drunken sexual assault. The other thing that kind of concerned me on a personal level is his defensiveness about his drinking, coming from a family of alcoholics. I swore I was listening to a relative with a drinking problem, that I like beer defensive thing. And it's funny how people who drink that much never seem to recall actually being drunk. Funny that. But that's not the main thing to me. As long as he's not drunk at work, I don't care how blackout drunk he gets. I do care about what his personal biases, and again, this has nothing to do with whether he's conservative or liberal, will do regarding cases that involve sexual assault that may very well come before the Supreme Court. We don't know what sort of, it could be an abortion case based on a pregnancy caused by a rape. And someone who subscribes to rape myths may believe that's not possible. But yeah, the idea that boys from good families don't commit sexual assault, the idea that going to an elite school will prevent sexual assault. I did see a thing in the news over the weekend about how perhaps part of the issue here is that boys aren't talked to about sex in the same way girls are. I know I've talked about this a lot, so I won't belabor it, but girls are trained in, rape prevention techniques. Most of them are rape myths themselves. For instance, don't dress quote unquote slutty and you won't get raped. Things like that. The idea that if you dress provocatively, you're making yourself a target. It's really not true. That has nothing to do with who becomes a target. Um, and the idea that if you're a good girl, it won't happen to you. I mean, Kellyanne Conway, of all people, came out this weekend as a survivor of sexual assault. And I had my suspicions before this, but, that was pretty brave of her to admit, because, she is an operative, and there are any number of reasons why people would be less than compassionate towards Kellyanne Conway for that. So I think that took guts, and the way she said it, it didn't sound like she planned to do it necessarily. It was kind of, she took this big gulp before she said it. So, good on her. That was pretty brave. And I think it's important that women like her, who aren't, the ones that you'd expect, air quotes, come forward and talk about this stuff. Because that's another thing, this idea that, the people who held on to it for a really long time and then talk about it now are these, left-wing activists. And it's good that we're broadening our awareness of this. And if, we can take even just baby steps towards better public understanding of this stuff. I mean, this is some of the stuff that I think a lack of sex ed curriculum in school because of politics really, really does a disservice to kids, because it's not only girls that miss out on, the what you do if it happens, how to report, what to do. But I think also we got to tackle, and this was the thing that really made me want to talk about this topic. We have to talk about the pressures on young men that lead, we'll say Bart Kavanaugh, the fictional character, instead of Brent Kavanaugh, because it is just an accusation right now, but guys like that to feel such pressure to have physical contact with a real live girl that they lose their good sense and, get into situations that they don't recognize as sexual assault, but in fact are sexual assault, or certainly sexual coercion. I mean, what Christine Blasey Ford described, there's no denying that's attempted rape. And but there are, other things like that horrible stuff they did in the yearbook to that girl. My God, what was wrong with that yearbook committee? But getting off topic, one of the things I was really looking for in the Kavanaugh hearings was how he handled his accuser. And I think this is going to sound really weird. I think that I would have been better if he just came out and said, it's not true, she's lying, as opposed to what he did, which was, I bear her no ill will. I believe something did happen to her, but this is a left-wing attack job. P.S. The Clintons are behind it. There's a condescension in his response. There's a gaslighting of Christine Blasey Ford. It's echoed in, I forget which, was it Orrin Hatch? Even before he heard from her, he just said, she's mixed up. They immediately went on this case of mistaken identity idea. And, that's another rape myth, the likelihood of mistaken identity in acquaintance rape is extremely low. You know the person, you know who did it. Mistaken identity is when people are attacked by a stranger, which is understandable. You've never seen the person before. But if it's, similar social circles, and unless there was some guy who looked exactly like him going around actually saying that he was Brett Kavanaugh, that's not something you mix up. Mistaken identity and acquaintance rape is very, very low. And so for him to go on that horribly condescending, and the whole Republican Judiciary Committee is pulling this one, that I believe something terrible happened to her, but it wasn't me. The shaggy defense. It was some other dude. That's a real stretch. That's a way of doing, and I can't believe I'm going to accuse the Republicans of political correctness, but I am. That's doing something to align with the politically correct believe women thing, because they're worried about, white suburban women. You heard that all over the news. White suburban women, that's their big concern. So they can't just say she's lying, because so many women have this in their past. But they had to find a way to go, wasn't me. So they come up with this ridiculous mistaken identity theory. And that's a real neat dismissal. But that's exactly what it is. It's a dismissal. When that sort of stuff happens to you, you remember who did it. You may not remember first and last name, but you remember who did it. Certain details, and that's the interesting thing about memory, certain details fade around the edges, but you remember who did it. Sometimes you get, I've seen a few cases of people who are traumatized, and they relive their trauma, and so they start accusing other people of assault when it didn't happen. But that's not mistaken identity. That's somebody being really messed up, and when pressed, they will admit, no, it wasn't them. And it is still dishonest. It is still actively dishonest. They know they're not telling the truth. They're driven by being really messed up, but the problem for Brett Kavanaugh, and this is horrible and politically incorrect, but it's true. Christine Blasey Ford couldn't be a more perfect victim in this case, because she's not only a professional with a professional reputation to uphold and ask for confidentiality, but she's meek and mousy and agreeable. And you see the Republicans know that's danger, because why is my nose going so red? Oh man, allergies, this sucks. But it's been going red since I've been talking. Like, do you see this? This is crazy. Okay, I better wrap up soon. But, they know they're in the danger zone with this woman. They can't really smear her, because look at her. She's practically a nun, right? And so they just jump to Michael Avenatti, the porn star lawyer, just keep beating that drum of, oh, there's a tawdry element involved, and so we can invoke the idea of, this poor woman, but porn star, let's degrade a perfectly legal profession where women happen to get paid more than men because it involves sex. Like, that's the stuff that really has to stop. There is no, I'm trying to think of the word. Partisan isn't the word, because it's not just you're an operative. It's a sincerely held belief. If, you're pro small government or limited government, or you believe in the Second Amendment or something like that. That has nothing to do with conservative or liberal principles, and everything about the fact that facts have to matter. And the fact is that during that hearing, a lot of rape myths were employed. And that I felt was worthy of a video, even if my nose is going horribly red and burny. Man, there must be something in this room. It's probably the paint. This is awful. I look like, what's his name from the Legend of the Breath of the Wild, the vendor dude that wanders around that you buy bugs from. Like, that's awful. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap there. Thanks for watching. If you're amused at my my nose predicament, help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. I'm gonna go take an antihistamine because this is like. Like, I feel like that guy from The Legend of Zelda. Like, the guy with the banner on his back and he walks around with the cart? Like, yeah, that's who I'm like. Either that or one of those weird Animal Crossing characters. But this is really bad. What the hell? I'm kind of freaked out. Anyway, thanks for watching. That was like a huge derail at the end, but I hoped you liked the information. I'm trying to be informative as opposed to just offering my opinion because, man, that's a shit show and everybody's fighting everybody, and I just want to... take the opportunity to educate people because I have no control over what happened. I'm not even in that country, but it's a good time to talk about that stuff and just sort of a good time to try to make things better, including my nose. Okay, thanks for watching.